Let's take a closer look at the Black Series Gaming Grades 6-inch figure of Bastila Shan from Knights of the Old Republic. Villa Varykino, living the Star Wars life. Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Villa Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be taking a closer look at a figure I'm very excited to finally have in my hands from Hasbro's Black Series line of 6-inch figures, Bastila Shan. She is of course a feature character in the video game Knights of the Old Republic, and this one is released as part of Hasbro's Gaming Greats line. You can see that foil sticker there on the front of the box. I have a few of the other Black Series figures from Knights of the Old Republic here, and you can kind of see the fact that it has been a little bit interrupted by the changing of Hasbro's packaging for the Black Series line. We have the original Darth Revan in the black and red numbered boxes. Then by the time we had come to Jedi Revan, they had switched to a Gaming Greats and they'd gone with purple, and we have the Gaming Greats logo here. By the time we got to Zalbar, we have the classic modern era of the art down the side and a window. Then for Darth Malak and Bastila, we have in the plastic-free packaging era with no windows. It is unfortunate because I would love to have seen these in windowed packaging, seeing as Hasbro has reverted back to these. I'm not sure if these are popular enough to reissue them down the line. I certainly hope so, but for me it's a minor issue because I will be opening my figures up, but I know that that is an annoyance for inbox collectors. So let's get started and take a look at the packaging for the Bastila Shan figure. She is one of the characters you meet early on in the game, so she features fairly prominently in the game and in the advertising for it as well, and she is a popular character. She's a Jedi character that wields a yellow double-bladed lightsaber with a really distinctive yellow and brown toned costume. So we can see the picture of the figure there on the front, and for Knights of the Old Republic we have this interesting sort of blue-green coloured stripe there with the name of the game and the character. On the side we have some really fun artwork of Bastila holding her lightsaber there, and on the back we have another picture of the figure. The bio text reads, Bastila Shan is a brash Jedi Knight during the Jedi Civil War of the Old Republic era. Bastila's affinity with the Force presents a serious threat to Darth Malak and his Sith fleet. And you can see she is numbered 21, Gaming Greats there with the Knights of the Old Republic stripe. We have a picture there of the figure with the size. She is 5.7 inches or 14.6 centimeters tall. You can see her cool lightsaber there. And we have that plastic-free packaging text there as well. So that's it for the box. Let's get stuck in and get the figure out so we can take a closer look. Removing the inner tray from the box, we have the figure here wrapped up in branded tissue paper, which I always think is kind of an interesting touch. It's branded with Star Wars Black Series with the Gaming Greats logo on it as well. So let's just slide her out. She's caught there. And we also have an accessory in this sort of paper packet here. I'm just going to pop this tray down to the side so I can take a closer look. So I'm just going to get the lightsaber out of its little package here. And let's see. It's interesting packaging. They've got it sort of, this is like clear plastic, keeping it in a little cardboard tray so that it doesn't get bent or broken. That's interesting. I haven't come across that before, to be honest. So this feels more like plastic than sellotape, but I guess that still fits within their rules of tape and plastic. We have one blade there, and then we have the other side here. I appreciate that because this is quite a long weapon. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this together. It's got a small little notch which should just fit inside this part. Oh, clips in there. And hopefully that looks straight. Slight curve, but that'll probably just even out with time. It's a little bit wonky on that side, isn't it? I wonder if I can, I'm a little bit careful about not breaking that little peg off, but yeah, from certain angles it looks a little bit more wonky than others, but I realized that this would be, it technically could fit in the box, but I guess they're just worried about it breaking. So I think it'd be interesting if this one is feels like the other one is fixed in. Don't really want to pull that one in. But either way, I think there's some good detail on this lightsaber. You can see the hilt. Really, really cool. Okay, so I'm going to pop that packaging away and we'll take a closer look at the figure all wrapped up here in her tissue paper. This is always the exciting moment when you finally get, it's like Christmas, opening up your new arrival here. So now we can see the figure. And I'll just put that tissue paper away to the side. So the first thing I notice is the color tone. It's a little bit different than the sort of the artwork and in-game colors that I'm used to. This has almost a sort of a wine burgundy color, not the sort of browner tones that I'm used to. It's kind of interesting. She does sort of match the picture on the box pretty well, but to be honest, I see more of a brown tone in this box art than I do here in terms of her sort of leather details that she wears over her bodysuit, which is an interesting color choice. I know certainly fans generally depict her as being more sort of orange and brown, and the undersuit ranges from yellow to peach. It's kind of like almost a caramel color here. So I guess that's sort of reading a bit of a sort of a yellow. Interesting color choices here. Okay, so let's take a closer look at all her articulation and stuff. Because of course her undersuit is a bodysuit, we're going to have these very obvious hinges and articulation here for her joins, which generally would be hidden under certain costume details for other figures, but there really is no hiding because the bodysuit is pretty much, you know, skin tight. There's not much to way of sort of sculpted folds of fabric or anything to hide behind. So starting out with the face, I think she is pretty good. She has a very distinctive hairstyle in the game, which is a little bit interpreted here. It's not exactly the same. She has a very distinctive hairstyle, but I think this is pretty good with the sort of fun double ponytail and the sort of top one here. Her face has changed a lot over the years. It's sort of hard to truly, I don't know whether I say that that's like a good likeness. She looks a little different to me than the face that I think of in the game. But to be honest, yeah, if I see this on a shelf, I would say that is Bastila Shan. It is, you know, the game is 20 years old now. The details and the graphics are not exactly up to today's standards. So they're a little bit more simplified. So I get the sort of interpretation here. So she has head articulation. I'm glad that the hair doesn't seem to be impinging on her movement too much. And we've got some interesting sort of rubber shoulder pieces here, which I've seen on a number of figures recently, so that we still get sort of shoulder armor detail without impacting too much on the articulation at the shoulders. So she's got a very good range of motion, though that shoulder piece there is not really hitting too much. You know, we're getting a little bit of contact when we get all the way up to there, and some good, you know, forward rotation there with that shoulder armor still sitting pretty nicely on her shoulder, even with those high poses. Then we've got a elbow join here. Pretty stiff, but it holds its shape well. It doesn't look too awkward with that articulation there. And we have a little bit at the wrist, and she has her hand in a lightsaber holding pose. Same level of articulation at the other side with that same shoulder armor detail here. And we can bring that forward. Tight join, at the elbow. And we've got some good rotation there for all sorts of poses, and we've got some good hand movement there as well. So we can do some cool lightsaber poses with her shortly. She's got some wiggle at the waist, not a lot, but just enough to kind of get a good turn. Oh yeah, I can actually turn her a little bit further than some of my other figures. That's quite good. So I'm not sure how well she is going to pivot. she's got classic, you know, hip joins here, but because of this rubbery sections down the front, I don't think, let's see, it kind of flexes. I can get to about there, and then that articulation is going to get sort of impacted by this, if I move her arm out of the way, the shape of this is kind of it's kind of holding her thigh there. Doesn't really want to go higher than that. So just put that leg back in there. We've got a line of articulation on the upper thigh, so we can pivot that from side to side. And we have quite an interesting join here at the knee. So we'll be able to get some fun leg poses there. It does look a bit robotic when you bend her knee. We start to really see the joins there and the pins holding those joins in place. It looks a little better with her knees straight, but it's still, especially if you sort of see those articulation points from the side, there's just no real good way to hide those, I guess. Generally, I don't get too bendy with the legs for my figures, particularly because I have them displayed on a shelf. If I do some adventurous poses with them, it makes them far more likely to tip over. So I tend to have them straight, but I know that for the people that like to recreate scenes and those very talented toy photographers, having some good articulation in the legs makes for some really cool poses. So moving down, we have just a classic ankle join there, which is fairly well hidden within the detail around the ankle of her boot there. So that's fairly well hidden. And of course she has chunky heels on her boots. And we can see some of the articulation here in the back as well. We can see the backs of the knees, around the hips and the upper thighs. The backs of the elbows are pretty well hidden when she has her arms down, but you do tend to see that a little bit more when you bend her arm, which is fairly standard really. I have played this game a lot, so I know her costume fairly well. We've got all the sort of interesting components. I never really quite understood what these parts were for. They sort of hang down. I guess they do pretty well for here for sort of hiding some of the joins for the figure. And we've got sort of the four leather tabards. We've got one down the back, which has got some interesting detail sort of carved into it in this different color tone. And again, on the front here, you can see that reflecting in the light. Hopefully you can see those grooves that are sculpted into this sort of plastic rubbery part. And we have the detail down the front as well with some tiny little silver detailing. And we have some details around her collar, which is very cool. On this figure, it feels like it is sort of like, I can just see a tiny gap here where this pleather part meets the chest. So I feel like in assembly, this is kind of like glued down because this feels like it's made out of the same sort of rubbery material as the rest of it. And certainly it is a one piece here at the shoulder. Take the camera to focus. So I feel like it is all sort of one piece that has been adhered to the figure, but they've done a really good job of making sure that that beds down over her chest very tightly. By the time we get to her abdomen, there's no gap. So that feels quite accurate, and I like the seamlessness of the way that they have sculpted these leather armor pieces over her suit. I think that that's really quite nicely done. And I really like the way that it is fitted over her hips. That fits really nicely and drapes. It doesn't sort of stick out and give her an odd shape. I think that that looks really fun. You can see when you move her arms up that these straps sort of stick out a little bit. They kind of look a little bit like wings when you do it from the front. So that is something just to be aware of when posing. From the front, I think she looks pretty cool. Overall, very excited. Let's see how well she stands up. She's going to be just a little bit unsteady. There we go. Finally got her standing up. Of course, she's got heels on, so that often gives us just a little bit of wobble. I think it's going to take just a little bit of time to find the right poses for her so she doesn't wobble a little bit. Some of the guy figures with the thicker legs and chunky boots keep them quite grounded. So let's see how well she's going to hold her lightsaber. Let's see if I can do the pose like they've got it on the box, actually. Let's see how easily I can get this into her hands. It's got a really interesting little black texture. So if we sort of have her holding it like she has, kind of in the concept art where she carries it behind, sort of holding it like that. I think that that looks really cool. Holding it like that, and then we can pull it to the front and she's holding it. And let's see if I can get her to do a sort of a two-handed grip. This will be interesting. I'll just see if I can get her hand. Do a little bit of posing here. I'm not the best at posing my figures, but we'll see if I can get this looking right. See how well I can get. There we go. I think that looks pretty cool. Such a big saber. I love the double-bladed sabers in the game. I think that looks really cool, and I'm sure we can get some really fun poses, sort of action stances. If you've seen some of our other videos, you know I recently unboxed the Bastila Shan statue from Gentle Giant with a fabulous dynamic pose of her sort of leaping off a Rakata droid that she is slicing into with her lightsaber. I absolutely love the pose on that. I don't think that's something I'm going to be able to get. With this figure here, I think for my shelf, she is going to stand pretty sort of standard lightsaber holding pose. But I'm really happy. I'm kind of just, I guess, a little confused with the sort of reddish tone that they have used on her costume. I always thought her costume, it felt more brown to me in the game, you know, with the classic sort of Jedi colors, the earthy tones. And she's just gonna be, okay, now I've got her standing up there. So if I compare her to the also recently released Darth Malak, we can see that her costume is not a red, but it definitely does feel a bit more red than I was thinking. Perhaps, yep, she's going to be a little bit delicate to stand up. So I might need to get a base for her. I feel like she's going to be a fiddly one to get to stand up. Malak, on the other hand, he just... You put him there and he stands. He's got pretty chunky boots that just stand pretty well. So if I put these two together, I'll see if Bastila is going to play nice for me and stand up. Oh, come on, stand. Okay, she might be standing there. And then I also have my original Darth Revan. Now, I know this one really doesn't like standing up. We'll see if I can get him to pose there. There we go. I think that is looking pretty cool. I finally got some of the major characters from Knights of the Old Republic all together in Black Series form. Of course, I've got Zalbar here. I've still got to get out, and I really do hope we keep continuing the line. Zalbar needs his friend Mission Veo, and of course the other companions that you have in the game, Cartho Nassi, Canderous Ordo, Jahani, Jolie Bindo, and all the rest. I need them all, and I do hope that this line will continue into Knights of the Old Republic 2, particularly Darth Sion and Darth Traya. I think would be fabulous, so that we can put them beside the Darth Nihilus and have that triumvirate group there. But yeah, I'm very happy to have Bastila. My main complaint, I think, is just the colors. They just seem just a little bit off in terms of the way that I remember her in the game. I always think of this as being perhaps a little bit more yellow or peach toned than the sort of the caramel beigey brown we've got here, and certainly a little bit more of a brown tone in the leather components of her costume. But in terms of the sculpting and the details, I think they've done a pretty good job. I really like her lightsaber, and I think her face is a pretty good likeness for the face that was created for the video game 20 years ago. I think she looks pretty, and I'm glad that, because these are blind boxes, I don't see any major paint flaws or any kind of mishaps with this figure. Sometimes you get them and you find something's just a little bit too bent, or there's glue on it, or the paint hasn't quite hit the mark. She looks pretty tidy. Her hair looks like it's on in place properly, and everything else looks like I would hope. I don't see any scratches or marks on her. it's always a sad day when you spot a figure that you really want on a store shelf and then you notice that it's got some damage that you know is just, it's just going to bug you. So yeah, it's always a choice whether you buy it or hope that you'll find it again someday. So I am very happy that within the sort of blind box, she looks fabulous. I'm going to have to work on posing her to stand her up well because she wants to tip over a little bit there, but that could just be, you know, just the way that her ankles came in the box, and I've just got to work out the right pose for her. But I think she looks super cool, and of course now I've got her next to some of the other characters. Of course Riven's not going to stand up for me. She has defeated Riven and she's going to fight Malik. But yes, I'm so happy that they put these two out together. I'm hoping we won't have to wait too long for more from this cool line from the Black series. So I'll put up some detail photos to show some of the closer up details of this sculpt. I think they do look really good up close. All the fine detail on her costume looks really good. Thank you so much for watching. Check out our other videos, especially if you are a fan of Knights of the Old Republic. I've got some really fun videos recently, so do check them out. I'll have them linked down below. Catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.